It's just starting, yeah.
Oh, this is the...
There's a delay on this one. So we're live now.
We're live now.
We are live.
Oh!
So good evening, everybody, and greetings. Welcome to Ask Me Anything from the Asato Dojo. It's been a beautiful day here in Okinawa, and I'm very pleased to be joined by my good friend and sometime collaborator on various projects, Mr. Chris Willson. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. This is, yes, exciting.
Have you done many of these kind of things, like live stream type stuff?
That I have been the subject of? No.
Or even streamed live yourself? Have you?
No. We've live streamed karate events,
yeah.
And we've live streamed seminars. But I'm behind the camera.
This is the thing. Usually, Chris is hidden away behind the camera. Yeah.
Yes, the whole concept of what we have done in general has been about not having us on camera.
Yeah.
So in terms of photography or photographing the portraits or interviewing the masters, it's all been about keeping the focus on the subject, on the karate master, removing our questions from the interviews.
So today's going to be interesting then, because we get to spotlight our experiences. Obviously, a lot of what we'll talk about today will be probably related to the Karate Masters Project, because that's the thing that we've been collaborating on for 12 years now. But this isn't Ask Me Anything, and we encourage you to ask us any question you like. If you're watching this live, the easiest way for you to do that is to add a comment into the YouTube chat. So if you write a comment, you can just say hi to us or send us a question, and we'll pick it up from there. And we're very grateful for any comments or questions that you have. Also, very grateful to everybody that sent us questions in advance. I've got a good 2 sheets worth of questions here, so thank you. In particular to Martin Pinto, Robert Curtis, Steve Lowe, Ipo Avisto, John Lode, and others. And we've got a really interesting mix of questions. Some obviously relate to sort of karate and karate masters, and some are more generally about your path, your journey, and photography, your skill set in general.
Thank you very much. Is it okay to be drinking coffee whilst we're doing we're on camera? I don't know. Do people on chat shows drink tea and coffee, or drink their juice?
I think yeah. If we go with the Joe Rogan set of rules, you smoke big cigars and take magic mushrooms, don't you? That's the kind.
Okay. Well, I was going to have just coffee to keep me going.
Yeah.
A busy day. Photography workshop today, so I was out.
Well, so that's yeah. So that that's what you do on a day-to-day basis, Chris, right? You're a photographer, and you do a wide range of photography, but you also teach English.
Yep.
So tell us a bit about your journey, how you ended up having this lifestyle in Okinawa.
Well, I am from. Is somebody phoning? Who's phoning us? Is somebody calling me? Okay, so briefly, I'm wondering where to look. Do I look at you? Do I look at the camera?
Look at me.
Look
at me. Never get tired of that, right?
Once you're the person on the camera, it all becomes a little bit awkward, a little bit weird doing it this way. Okay, so my background is I'm from the UK. When I was a teenager, and when I was growing up, I was lucky to do a good amount of traveling in Europe. I managed to go to India and Australasia and places. And then at university, I was an exchange student and managed to go to Calgary for a year. And then my first job real job after university was as a guide in the Peruvian jungle. So
that's pretty cool.
I got to have a wide range of experiences there. And then when I'd done that and I got back to the UK, I wanted to go and experience another part of the world. And I saw there were jobs teaching English in Japan. And they would very quickly and efficiently get you on a plane, get you an apartment, and get you teaching in a language school in a matter of weeks, really. So back in 1999, I got a job with Nova Language School. Came out to Japan. I was in Niigata for 6 months, and then Hokkaido for a bit over a year. And then I moved to Okinawa.
So that's quite a difference from Niigata and Hokkaido, which are cold and mountainous. And then you've come down here to the tropical end of Japan.
In terms of climate, very different.
Yeah.
In terms of style of living, very similar.
Right. Okay.
In both cases, you're not living the Tokyo lifestyle. I think there's maybe a bigger difference in living big city lifestyle and more
totally
rural outskirts lifestyle. You're more likely to have a car, more likely to be doing
it's a different pace, isn't it? A very different pace.
Yeah.
There's a certain kind of frenzy about living in a big Japanese city. Tokyo's the worst, obviously, but Osaka, I was there. It's like that too.
I think so, yeah. And I guess the number of foreigners. I mean, Okinawa is different for having a large military community, but where I was living at first down in Gushikami, that area, there weren't many foreigners there, so you still like interacting in the Japanese community a bit more. Anyway, so that was 1999. I came to Okinawa, and then I was teaching English full time, and then I started doing some photography and freelance photography. I got into doing some freelance work for local newspaper, and then some magazines and some in-flight travel magazines and things like that. And then after a few years, I quit full-time teaching and then started doing part-time university English teaching, and then the rest of the time doing photography work. And then not that long ago, I also added doing video work as well as photography work. So now I kind of split my time between doing sort of that English teaching, photography, video work.
So every now and again, in fact, quite frequently, you get quite interesting jobs come up, right? So for example, going and rewriting a whole section of a guidebook for Japan. And touring around and doing the pictures and writing reviews for that.
Yes.
So you get to see some really interesting different areas of Japan.
Yeah, so that's, I've done Foda's guidebook. So Foda's is an American travel guide for different parts of the world, and I've done numerous chapters for each update. So earlier, almost exactly a year ago, I was traveling around Hokkaido, Western Honshu, Kyushu, and Okinawa for several months, just reviewing places, updating the information, taking some photos. So it was it's an interesting an interesting part of my job.
Yeah.
And
And then, what was it, about back in 2012 or so, you got a job doing a photo shoot for a karate teacher called Shinjo Kiyohide, right?
So yes, it could have even before that. May have been back. No, that may have been like 2004, maybe that long ago.
Even that far back?
Yeah,
right.
So that was for Okinawa Living magazine.
Right.
I interviewed...
Okay, a little bit of a connection problem there, but I think we're back. So we're talking about Shinjo Sensei. Shinjo Kihide, for those in the Okinawan karate community, let's say, he's kind of a bit of a legendary figure. So what was your first impression of him, and what lasting impression did he leave on you? I think you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so he's I knew he was a Uechi-ryu karate master. Went along, interviewed him, and one of the questions on my list of questions I had for him was, what's your favorite technique? And he said the toe kick, and I naively said, what's the toe kick? And he said, just stand there. And so I stood in front of him, and then he performed a toe kick straight into my thigh. And I remember he smacked, the toes went into my thigh, and I went, yeah, that really hurts. And then
I think he just wanted to give you the full shock value, the surprise, right?
Well,
as well as the hit.
Yeah. And then I sat down and carried on asking some questions. And then when I got home that night and I took off my pants, there was a huge bruise on my thigh, a good purple welt where his toe had. Thinking
about it now, to be honest, he probably only very lightly touched you because the way that he can kick, he could probably break your leg if he wanted to.
Yes, yeah. Which he'd actually one of the comments in the interview I'd said, we'd asked about, I think I'd asked why he would train, because he showed me he puts out his foot and his toes sticking up, and then he takes a 2x4 and he just smacks them against his toes. Yeah, and the 2x4 just bounces off with a dong dong dong, and he pretty much I asked him why he did this, and he said, well, if somebody blocks one of my punches or somehow puts any limb or anything in the way of one of his punches or kicks, well, he'll just break whatever thing you put in the way, right? And then the next one will hit whichever vital part of your body he was originally aiming at. So it means, like, if you do block that first one, that limb is not going to do very much.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think he talked about, yes, if you have a bird with a broken wing is no longer able to fly. It was quite philosophical in that aspect. Yeah. And it was a case of
you got it both mentally and physically. You grasped.
I grasped
the notion. Yes.
I grasped the notion he was saying. But then later on, I found out that he had trained with Nigel Mansell, one of the Formula One heroes,
one of the famous drivers. Yeah,
famous driver, famous moustache wearer.
Indeed.
And then in recent years, he has briefly, for a TV show, trained Idris Elba. So that's kind of pretty cool ends of the
he's
cultural spectrum.
He's certainly one of the more famous Okinawan teachers of today, and very rightly so. So, got quite a lot of questions. Let's press on. You've taken a lot of photos and videos of karateka. The question is, do you practice yourself, and are you ever tempted to take up karate yourself?
I actually did karate for a couple of years whilst I was at university. Not when I went overseas to study in Canada for a year, but whilst I was back at Lancaster University, I did some Shotokan karate. Yep. And when I moved to Okinawa, I was living in Goshikami, which is just south of Kochinda area. Yep. So I went and met one of the senseis there, Nakamura Sensei. Yeah. And I went and had some lessons there briefly whilst I was living in that area, and then I had to move to the school I was working at shut down, and I had to move to another area. But I realized that whilst I was in Okinawa, my passion in my free time was going to be photography, but also snorkeling and scuba diving. And you have a limited amount of time, and I decided that scuba diving was a greater passion for me than karate. And living in Okinawa, Okinawa is famous for karate, but it is also an amazing place to scuba dive and snorkel, and that is where I spent my weekends. And yeah, so once you're scuba diving and traveling and taking photos and doing all those things, then yeah, that's where my passion lies. So what that meant was, yeah, I haven't done karate for 20 years, and would not consider myself a karateka. But so when I go into a dojo and I'm meeting the karate masters, James is the person who is a karateka and trains, and I can go in there completely as an outsider.
It is both funny and very useful to see Chris. So Chris is really used to getting the most out of models. When people are modeling for him, you know, he's telling them what he needs them to do. You know, move there, pose like this. You know, and he's very direct. You know, and so. And so when Chris talks to the Okinawan senseis, you know, sometimes it's like, nope, a little higher, a little lower. You come over here, go over there, and then and sometimes I have to just hold back a little bit from trying to correct him about that. You know, you just need to be a little more polite, or a little more, because you know, in Japanese, you need to be a little bit more polite and indirect when you're speaking to your seniors. But you can get away with it because you've got a job to do, and you're there doing your job, which is great. But that's how we get the results, because I would be too embarrassed to ask them to do that kind of stuff.
There are a few challenges there. So the first is that my Japanese is getting better, but I speak Japanese like Tarzan speaks English. James is fluent. I am functional survival Japanese for
it's got better than that recently.
Okay, but when I am talking to people, I would be okay, turn your shoulder. In the Japanese, it would be something like, okay, shoulders this way, okay, higher, lower, stay, stay, move. I mean, it's not like talking to a dog, but for a Japanese person listening to it, it's pretty blunt and direct.
Exactly.
And also, I'm often saying to the karate master, like, that's great, now do it again. That's great, now can you kick? Can you do that kick again, but like do it a bit higher this time? Or that's great, but can you like, and now with feeling, which is, which James sometimes is like, oh, yeah.
But we get the results. That's it, actually. But I think it's in that way, we do get good results working as a team.
Yes.
I have to say, one of the questions that we got also, and this relates also to your ability as a photographer, but also your knowledge about Okinawa, is we do, if you follow the project, and what we're going to do is I'll share the screen and we'll take a quick look at a lot of the pictures and the work that we've done together. But we will photograph the subjects, the karate teachers, on a black background. And then when we can, we'll take them outside and do some outdoor photography too, or sometimes it'll be in the dojo, but with the dojo backdrop. But we do manage to get some very atmospheric, some very dramatic backdrops to a lot of pictures when we go outside. And is that just luck of the draw, or is there a bit more to it?
Well, the first thing with that, the first point was that when we started off, what I did was I just brought one of my studio lights, like a plug-in with a generator studio light that I'd used for shooting model shots in my own little studio, to the dojo. So these were, you had to plug into the wall and have a power pack. But then 5 years, 6 years later, when technology had changed, the Profoto, the company I used, they produced a lithium-powered portable strobe, sort of professional strobe system, and I could use that. We could take that outdoors
Anywhere, yeah.
So, but yeah, shooting outdoors has allowed us to be a bit more creative with the shots. The actual Karate Masters portrait series, we started it and I made the decision that I wanted to do all this, the photos in all this series exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because the Karate Masters, some have beautiful dojos, some are working, some have no dojo, some of them have dojos which are a bit more like a functional gym.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you are doing something as what quickly we realized it was more of like a historical record, you want to have some continuity between the shots. So that was when we thought, okay, the black background, this single light with a beauty dish is how we're going to do shot after shot after shot.
Yeah.
But these additional shots where we can go outside in the dojo, we can be a bit more varied. And if you would try, if they were located, this is Tamagusuku-jo Castle, or Tamagusuku Castle.
See if I can share this with everybody here. Yeah, so this is a recent shoot. What was it, just a few months back now?
Yeah. So here we're their dojo was near this famous landmark, and that was allowed us the opportunity to take a sort of a different type of photo. Just us trying to, I don't know, take it to the next level, trying to blend that bit of.
So knowledge of locations and knowledge of the time of day, the conditions that they're likely to be there on the island, is all of that comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To get a really good picture. Not to mention, so actually the most recent shoot we did, and this was just a week ago, was with Andrea Clementisova, who is a fantastic karateka and also very, very photogenic. And we got some amazing pictures. Some of those came out recently, and actually we also did a video interview with her, which I found fascinating, and that will be released soon too. But again, kind of matching her almost to the sunset background, that worked so well, and you got the angle just right, the sun there going down behind. So it's a combination of all those factors, right? Really understanding the environment, the setting, and then also her capability as well, because she's very athletic and she was doing some fantastic kicks and all kinds of poses, right? So,
and also, it all depends on the situation, because often we don't have. We work with the availability of these karate masters. So if karate masters say, like, we are free on this day at 10 a.m. at the dojo, we will go to their dojo, we will go to that place, and then we'll set up the gear and take the photo. So sometimes we don't have a lot of time, we will just do the dojo shots. Sometimes they have more time and we can suggest something and see if that's an option, or we'll have a chat to them. And if they say, oh, sometimes I train in this park, I think it was Tyra Masaji Sensei said, "Oh, sometimes I go to this park." And
Oh yeah, we got some
kick
great shots there,
trees."
didn't we?
And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, well, that sounds. Can we follow you to the park and
Yeah.
just get some photos of you kicking trees?"
We got some great shots there.
So it made sense to kind of try that out. So yes, the opportunity to like get some other kinds of shots is always.
Absolutely. Just so, in case you're watching this and you don't know what we're talking about when we're talking about the Karate Masters Portrait Project, just again, share screen here and just show you where you can see that. And that's on Facebook. The portrait's primarily on Facebook. Let me just pull this up here. So we have a Facebook group called the Karate Masters Portrait Project, and there are portraits, pictures shared there for every single subject. Most are Okinawan, but not exclusively. Some are from the mainland, and others are visiting karate and kobudo instructors who we've also taken the opportunity to capture as well. If you're on Facebook, highly recommend you go and have a look at that. It's really, really interesting. And then the other thing to have a look at is our the YouTube channel and also Bujin TV. So if I can swap over to, let me see, where am I going with this? Okay, our YouTube channel. Well, Chris's YouTube channel is called Okinawan Spirit, Okinawa no Kokoro, there in kanji. And I just wanted to show just a couple of minutes from a short video that you put together recently of Kinjo Takashi and Kinjo Masami, a husband and wife couple who are masters of Uechi-ryu and Kobudo. And just love these guys. They are amazing. How old is he now? He's like near 80 years old or something. Just moves. Okay, we're back. Sorry, we are suffering from some local internet connection issues here, so we're up and down. But we're back in the room now. Just making sure that everything's restarting. Here we go. So we talked a lot about the Karate Masters project. And also, let's wrap that up and talk about, okay, what are the things that we'd like to do with that in the future? So one of the things that I've been very happy about recently is that we've been getting to meet some of the next generation, as I call them, which are the up-and-coming skilled karateka, kobudoka, particularly who reside here. They are the senior students, the sons and daughters of the current master class, so to speak. We're taking every opportunity now to meet them and to document them and start to share information about them through the project as well. I think that's a really important thing to do, because these people are now starting to teach. They're starting to become the teachers, either inheriting dojos or making that step to start their own dojo. What do you think about the future and what we've got to look forward to?
So yeah, there are karateka. There are some masters in Okinawa, some of the masters, the grand masters, which we still haven't photographed, and so hopefully we'll photograph those at some point. Some who we haven't photographed yet could be availability, sometimes just working through explaining what we do, and hopefully we'll be photographing more of the older generation. Photographing this next generation is also really interesting. This idea of passing down these traditions, this sort of like, I guess in some ways like an oral tradition which is being passed down. Or like sometimes the interesting thing about karate is sometimes it's not even oral. It's this idea like you have a sensei who is physically manipulating your body, saying like you need to do it this way. Exactly. That kind of like hands-on. Which again, the kind of things we've learned, or I've learned as an outsider, when you're looking at how differently they teach in Okinawa. That idea that it was in these tiny groups of 2 or 3 students,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a teacher at the front to a gymnasium of people.
Right.
It was a teacher
Hands-on.
hands-on, like block this punch, like they're doing it with you, like,
Yeah.
okay, if I've grabbed you around the wrist, that's a big thick wrist, holy smokes, you're a big guy. Sorry. You
think you'd realize by now.
That kind of just like that reality of grabbing somebody who's really big, and like, how are you going to deal with that situation?
How are you going to make it work? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that was so this new generation of how they're learning things, how they're dealing with things. Andrea, when we talked to her, said that she noticed there was a difference between this new generation of karateka, how maybe it's to do with the internet or the way people communicate, but because everybody's aware of things a lot more, there's a lot more interaction, there's a lot less, you could say division, or there's a lot more willingness to communicate and share information and stuff and things between
I've thought about this, and I think that there used to be more advantage in keeping stuff secret or maintaining that you had some special knowledge. That used to be more valuable, I believe. It used to sort of give you more cachet. It used to give more value to what you do. These days, I think it's the opposite. I think the more you share and the more people can actually see what you've got, the more cachet you get, the more value you get. And so I think the pendulum has swung quite a bit and changed in that regard, actually. Now, you'll obviously still come across some people who will tell you that, they don't want to share and it's not the right thing to do for their style. But I think in general, because, the information age has happened, right? And I think...
But then, and you can, again, with the karateka, you can share a whole lot. They're happy to share certain things and concepts because they know, like, the people who are actually there, they're students who are interacting on that one-to-one level, get a whole different experience and a different way of learning. Yeah.
I mean, on the flip side, though, it should be noted that, and this is a very important consideration, is there's still a lot in Okinawan karate, particularly if you're teaching the older style, which is very dangerous. I mean, it was designed to give you a very quick, brutal advantage over the other person. So not something that should be freely bandied around without care or concern for who might pick it up and use it in the wrong way for the wrong reasons. So we also have to